Hi everyone and welcome to RedShark Live. It's nice to be back again, and unbelievably this is our seventh edition. We do them approximately every 2 weeks, here we are with edition number 7, and what a week it's been. We've seen a flurry, if not a cascade, of camera announcements. Keep an eye on RedShark news tomorrow, because I'm not saying anything, but just keep an eye on RedShark news tomorrow. And it's just been a fascinating week, because we've had the launch of a new Canon EOS series, a new lens system, the R system. It's very impressive, and the first camera, the EOS R camera, mirrorless, full frame, cropped video, not to everybody's taste, but remember it's primarily a still camera. I've used it, I found it incredibly impressive. And just a couple of days after that, we've had Simon Wyndham's first hands-on review of the Blackmagic 4K cinema camera, which again is, for the money, unbelievably impressive. And before we go to Simon, who's not able to be with us in person today, but he's with us on Skype, I just want to say thank you so much to our sponsors, as ever, Matrox, a brilliant company based in Montreal, well known across the world for making very, very capable video products. And as usual, you are seeing this brilliant picture courtesy of the Matrox Monarch system. There's two of them. There's the HD and the HDX, and they are video streaming appliances. Basically, they're not computers, which means they're very dependable. They just work exactly what you want if you're involved in live streaming like this, and I must say we've been very, very pleased with it indeed. So anyway, I'm going to come to Simon in just a minute, but first of all I just want to mention it turned into be quite a storm over the new Canon camera, the EOS R, and the lenses, the RF lenses. It is a new lens system. There are actually 3 adapters that will become available for the older EF system, but when we say this is a new system, it's not just a new system for the sake of a new system. It's a new system to allow it to be able to do all kinds of things now and in the future that the old system couldn't do. So whilst you have got pretty much complete backwards compatibility, in terms of looking forwards, this new system will allow, for example, 40 times the amount of data to be transferred between the lens and the camera. And to me that seems an important thing, because even though these are interchangeable lenses, they actually become part of the camera. Metadata is everything, and they behave as if they are part of the camera itself. So, for example, optical correction is much, much more powerful with this. Image stabilization, although there is not a moving sensor image stabilization built into the camera itself, used with the right lenses, it becomes a very, very good system that will give you an extra 5 stops. And all kinds of things like this. An assignable additional ring on the lenses that allows you to control whatever you like. The aperture, the shutter speed, or the air conditioning, whatever you like. So it felt very good to me as a experienced Canon DSLR user. It would present no difficulty to me at all moving across, and for me it's the first Canon mirrorless camera where I can't see there being any downsides in comparison to a DSLR. So, but we had an unbelievably vociferous reaction to this, with people saying, but it's got cropped video, to which my reaction is, but it's a still camera. And I think what you have to understand is that still and video sensors are not the same. They are built differently, they are designed differently, they have different electronics, they have different characteristics. And it's just like when you wearily hear that somebody else has built an amphibious car or a flying car, it's not going to be as good as a boat, and it's not going to be as good as an aeroplane. So I think at the high end, at the professional end, it's good to have a degree of specialization. And so the new Canon camera has a very similar sensor to the 5D Mark IV, recognized to be a really good sensor. It could have had a higher resolution, but that would have reduced the dynamic range and increased the noise. So it's in a sweet spot. Sensors have a lifespan that can go up to a decade or more. So this is a sensor that's only 2 years old. There's no sense in which Canon is using an old sensor. And remember, Canon, like Sony, build their own sensors. There are very, very few companies that can do that. JVC does it now because they bought a sensor company, but they do that on a very small scale. So I think if you're buying this camera as a main video camera, that's a bold choice. But I think if you're a working still photographer who sometimes or even quite often needs to take very good looking video, you're just going to use it because it's what you've got and it's dependable. And we are going to see more and more video from this camera showing that it is very good. So do have a look at RedShark, at the 3 articles that we had on the camera, and have a look at the comments and see what you think. You can also send comments and questions to me via YouTube. If you click through to YouTube, you'll see there's a comments panel for you to use. And do let me have those questions, because we will stay on air until we've answered them all, unless we get millions, in which case we may have to come back again. Anyway, I'm going to move across to Simon now. And hi Simon, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
Really,
so
really be there. Good. Yeah. We're just turning your level down a bit because it's scarily high. Yeah, no, good picture as well. So shame you couldn't be here, but totally understand. You are one of the very, very few journalists who've had your hands on a Blackmagic 4K pocket cinema camera. What do you think?
I can't put too fine a point on it. I was very impressed with what I saw. Really impressed. This thing is designed around video. When we first saw it, when it appeared at NAB, a lot of people were saying, well, what's the difference between this and a normal DSLR or a mirrorless camera? The body it has that similar kind of form factor to it. But actually, when you see it in person, so to speak, it makes sense. It's designed around video, so the controls are video focused, the interface is video focused, the display and all your sort of feedback, such as your exposure indexes and your audio metering and everything. It's all designed around video. So there's no.
Sorry, that's really interesting you should say that, because so many people look at it and they say, no, that's not a video camera, but you're actually saying the opposite.
Yeah, because a stills camera has to cater to the different controls and settings that you might need for stills. You have your dial on the top that you can switch between different modes. You have all these other dials and controls on. Whereas the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K has a very, very simple interface. Buttons that do direct things. You can put it in high frame rate mode straight away with the HFR button. You've got a simple dial that will adjust whatever setting that you're currently in on the display, although you can also use the very large touchscreen. So you can find your way around it very, very quickly. It's the kind of camera that you'll be able to, once you've got used to the position of the buttons, you'll be able to work around very, very quickly. And because it's designed to be portable and it's designed to be used in these kind of run and gun situations, the DSLR form factor does make sense. I know Blackmagic might hate me for saying DSLR form factor, but it's the closest people understand.
I think that's a perfectly valid point, and you know, as well for people who've been brought up on still videos and DSLRs, it is going to be a familiar form factor, isn't it? And so yes, ultimately, ergonomically, maybe it's not something you'd shoot a Hollywood movie on, but in sheer practical use, and I must say, I've had a look at those menus. My reaction is, why can't other people do menus like this?
Yeah, they're so well designed. I mean, they are by far and away the best designed setup menus on any camera, and you know, because of the way that they've designed it, you can once you've been into the initial setup menu to set up your resolution and frame rate, you know, your base recording frame rates, and you know, those sort of technical aspects that you set up on a project by project basis. Once you've done that, everything else is then accessible straight from your main display, so you won't really need to go back into that again.
So you can set it up just the way you like, and it will adopt your personality.
And everything's there. Yeah, there's no searching through loads of meaningless submenus trying to find the bit that you want. Everything is bang, bang, bang. It's there. It's really
because you know, this gets around the problem that always bugs me about menus, which is that the more nested and the more convoluted and recursive the menus are, the more you have to know the mind of the person that designed them, because everything depends on how they categorize a particular setting, and if it's buried deep in some tendrilless root of a menu, your chances of finding it are practically zero, and that's when you're relaxing at home on your sofa. If you're out in the field trying to get that shot of the Prime Minister jumping into a car, you don't stand a chance. So I don't think you can overstate how important it is that Blackmagic have spent time working on these menus. And of course, they haven't had the experience of having to work with the same system that they've had for the last 30 years or so. They've started, what, 7 years ago, was it?
It's around 7 years ago, yeah. And you know, they unified the they're effectively an operating system. That they told me it works much more like an app than normal sort of operating system. But you know, the whole the way, you know, the camera has a mini XLR in, so you don't have to have any bulky additional audio inputs, unless you know, if you need multiple channels of audio, you know, complex audio setups, then you might need to record off camera. But that's not the point. You know, it's not the point of the camera. You know, it's designed for that fast working. Most of the kind of jobs and situations where you would want to use this type of camera, you don't need like multiple XLR inputs. You know, you need a basic interview mic. You're not going to be, you know, you're just not going to be using it for those sorts of like huge situations where you need 3 or 4.
No, just the fact that it's got a mic preamp built in, I think, is.
It's a very quiet preamp as well.
Yeah.
It's usable audio. It's not, you know, you're not going to have to think about using an annoying external audio recorder for most sort of situations.
So talking about lack of noise, tell us about the low light performance.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's impressive. It was impressive. We were in a gin distillery, you know, as you do.
Obviously, just a normal day then.
It was just one of those things, you know. And but it was incredibly low light, you know. Even to be in there was a very dark environment that would challenge most cameras. And this thing would go up to it has two gain circuits, as they call them. Which give you the dual ISO.
Oh, so it's dual ISO. This is a really you know, trendy thing, isn't it? But that's to trivialize it. It's a really important thing as well. Yeah,
but what they've done is the native ISO, the two dual native ISOs of the camera are 400 ISO and 3200 ISO. Yeah. So, but the gain circuit switches at 1250, so it switches to the new circuit at that point.
So you're never too far from a native ISO.
Yeah, but the point is that the way that they explain it to us, you can go either side of those native ISO points, and you'll get some trade-off in dynamic range, but not huge amounts. You know, they've made the ISO adjustable in quarter stop increments, so it's much easier to be able to select your aperture and then fine-tune your exposure without really much sort of any sort of issues to worry about with your ISO.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
You know, and they explain, you know, certain situations. If you need to go up to, say, I don't know, 800 ISO, in some circumstances it might be better to switch, you know, to go up, you know, to go up into the next gain circuit, and then stop down to get a quieter image. So it depends on what you're doing. But I stuck this thing into a really dark shadow area at, I think it was 25,600 ISO, and it was still a perfectly usable picture. You know, there's obviously noise on it. You know, you expect that, but
sometimes you trade a bit of noise in exchange for getting a shot that you would not otherwise have been able to use.
Yeah, but it was perfectly usable. That was the point. It wasn't, oh my God, I'm only going to use this as an absolute last resort. You know, it was pretty usable, and you know, using software like Resolve, you know, you can remove that pretty easily. You know, the Resolve software is tuned to deal with the types of noise that you get their own cameras. You know.
So the bottom line of it, you know, and everybody looks at skin tones. How do you think it performs?
Well, from what I could tell, I think they were still doing some tweaks to it. So it wasn't. I'm not sure it was the absolute
product,
final colorimetry when we saw it. But from what I saw, it looked very, very good. Skin tones looked really nice. There was a slight mixed lighting situation, and it coped really well. I mean, this is, if you've used Blackmagic cameras before, this, as far as I'm concerned, is a step change in their cameras. So
maybe we'll be seeing this technology moving up into their bigger cameras.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a big change for them, and I think they see this camera as a new sort of step on their journey in terms of making cameras.
And before we finish, can you just explain the sensor size and how that relates, for example, to Micro Four Thirds lenses, and what can people expect from this?
Yeah, it's effectively. I mean, you know, I can't remember offhand the exact millimeter dimensions of it, but it is a Micro Four Thirds sensor.
It's bigger than the first pocket cinema camera.
Yeah. The old camera, I think, had a crop factor of almost 3 times, I think, and this one is closer to 2, you know, 1.82. So it's
that's relative to a 35mm full frame, yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, you put a Micro Four Thirds lens on it, and you will get the angle of view that you expect from a Micro Four Thirds lens. So. Yeah, it's very it's different, completely different to the Pocket Cinema camera that came before it. You know, this is. I asked them why they used the Pocket naming, because it clearly isn't pocket sized, and they said it's for familiarity. People know the Cinema camera. You know, it's got a good reputation, and you know, this is just a follow on from that.
All right, well, thanks ever so much for writing that article, Simon. If anybody wants to go and look at it, it's it shows up under our most popular tag on the right-hand side, because it is the fastest read article we've ever written, and that just shows you how much interest there is in this camera. We've had a whole football stadium's worth of people read it just in 24 hours. So Simon, thanks ever so much. Stay on the line. We're going to leave your mic up in case you want to chip in, because we've got some questions here. Meanwhile, Matt's going to scurry over. Matt, my colleague Matt, co-founder of RedShark, commercial director, and Matt's here because we want to talk about IBC and some interesting stuff that's going on at IBC, and Matt, you just need to switch to the other camera. It's going to be a very, very busy week. I think there's one day when I've got 17 appointments, and that's before breakfast. So
yeah, I'm not the technical one. That's the stage.
Yeah, you're supposed to use your hands, not your feet. Matt's doing a brilliant job standing in for Simon, and Matt, we have got a busy week coming up, haven't we? How does this compare with other weeks of the year that we have?
This is, I mean, IBC has always been a bit special to us, Dave. I mean, we launched RedShark 6 years ago, 2012. So it's always going to hold a pretty special place in our hearts, going around over this dummy version of a site. Hey, we want to create an online magazine for filmmakers and content creators. But in terms of where it sits for us, obviously you've got NAB and IBC in terms of the big shows where new products, that kind of product cycle is based around those shows. There are other shows we love, like Cinegear and Camera Homage, which are much more kind of hands-on.
Nothing quite has the scale of IBC and NAB, do they?
No. I mean, we just know that just from trying to get from one side to the other, because you book 17 meetings in one day, and we have to go up 3 lifts through 4 halls and try and find who we're seeing.
It should be an Olympic sport, shouldn't it?
But it's a great show. I mean, it's the show with my favourite area of any show, and that's the Future Zone, which is outside Hall 6. That's fantastic, really good fun, and the first time we got to see things like AR and VR being used in broadcast video, also kind of 360 shooting with, remember those German students on a master's project we saw about 4 years ago, 8K, 4K. So yeah, IBC, it's gonna be good fun, an intense week, always is.
So there's an even more important event taking place on the Monday night, though, isn't
there? Yeah, of course. Yeah, RedShark Connect. This is our first time we've done a RedShark Connect in Europe. For those that aren't aware, RedShark Connect is an idea we put together where we connect our community of filmmakers, video content creators with real-world production environments. Shows like IBC, as I kind of just touched on, are fantastic, really amazing, very important shows where you can go to for example, one of the large Japanese manufacturers and see their entire ecosystem. What we want to do is create a more end-user focused environment where camera operators, filmmakers, post workers can come along and see a real-world environment from acquisition through to distribution.
And what is it we're focusing on this time around?
Yeah, this time we're focusing on full-frame 8K content. So working with it, as in, kind of, don't be scared of it, is the kind of theme.
And I think we should say up to full frame and 8K, because not everybody has that at the moment, but there's a massive amount of interest in full frame. There's some skepticism about 8K, but we want to show that it's out there in the field, and it does have enormous benefits.
Oh, definitely. Certainly on the acquisition side. If you're at IBC, if you're around the Rye over the next, from Thursday onwards, Friday, onwards, you might see a bunch of guys and girls with RedShark regalia, kind of like mine, with a red epic weapon camera.
Sorry, there's a pigeon just walked past. Just all live.
Recording lots of interviews with people visiting the show, people on the stands, kind of doing demos, etc. That's Baz. He shoots with as I just mentioned, a red epic weapon, 8K helium sensor, Super 35.
So we've, you know, contrary to what people imagine, that you have to be in Hollywood with a multi-million budget. We shoot our interviews in 8K.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason for that. And I'm going to let people behind the kind of the curtain here a bit. It gives the impression of a multi-camera shoot, because we distribute in HD on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. So for Baz, it's great in post. He's got this 8K frame that he can work in to kind of give that multi-camera kind of feel to it, which works for us, and it obviously works for other people as well. I think the focus on RedShark Connect, I should really say today, it's on Monday the 17th of September, from 7 PM till 10 PM at the Edam Tower, just across from Central Station.
Is that Edam as in Amsterdam?
Yeah,
but couldn't be bothered to say the whole word.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a seriously cool venue actually. We've got a venue called The Loft. So if you Google The Loft, Edam Tower, you'll see what it is, and it's really great. And it's got kind of floor-to-ceiling windows, even bigger than yours, Dave, and which given our production team a challenge, because
and outside the windows, instead of a pigeon, there is the Amsterdam skyline and the waterfront. It is.
It's fantastic, and there's, I mean, there's a certain amount of spaces. There's a very small amount of spaces left. If people want to come along, everybody's invited. The idea is you'll get to hopefully learn some new techniques, see some amazing kit, because if I can mention the kit we've got.
Well, if I could just say that, from my point of view, the best thing about RedShark Connect is that we set up a real world workflow. You go to an exhibition, and it's great, but you've got everybody shouting at you saying their product is best. At RedShark Connect, you see the manufacturers cooperating with each other in a real world working example of a workflow.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head. The idea is not just to kind of connect our community with these products and services in one large system, but it's also about getting those companies to work together as well, to collaborate as well, to reflect real world environments. So we kind of got it split into two areas. We've got acquisition and we've got post. So on the acquisition, because it's full frame and it's 8K, we're using a Red Monstro sensor camera, which obviously people know a lot about that camera now. It's got a huge buzz, certainly around a kind of Hollywood top-end cinematic shooting world. We've got a Fujinon 18 to 85mm cinema lens on there with a full-frame adapter. So we're going to get some fantastic images from that, and we've got expert cinematographers there to kind of talk people through what we're shooting with a set that's interactive, and we encourage people to come up and ask questions and touch things and play with things as well. We're recording onto a Atomos Sumo recorder monitor. So I mean, with the huge buzz around ProRes RAW and the potential implications of that moving forward, it's sometimes easy to forget what they're really good at, and that's recorder monitors.
And HDR recorder monitors.
Yes. I mean, and they're a great example, along with G Technology, who are creating the storage, who are helping us on the storage side at the event, of companies that are really good at collaborating. Red, Atomos, G Technology all work very closely together to create products which reflect real-world environments. So that's what you're going to see on the acquisition side. And then the footage we've shot, both there at the event itself, but also earlier in the week on location in Amsterdam, in and around Amsterdam, we're going to be putting that together, slicing that together within Adobe Premiere Pro, using the whole Creative Cloud suite on Dell hardware. So it's it's going to be really good fun.
Okay, and I think it's important to say, actually, when people hear that we're doing this with Dell, a lot of people think that Dell is like a huge computer company that make cheap and cheerful computers for consumers. They have an entirely separate division called Dell Precision, based in Austin, Texas, with their own buildings.
You went there, didn't you?
I went there.
Yeah.
Incredibly impressive. You know, their fanaticism about design is comparable to Apple's with the Precision range, and so they're every inch a professional company.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being affordable either.
No, we're really happy to have them there. Okay, Matt, that's fantastic. I'll let you go back and get back on the...
And just letting people know, anybody watching this now, if you want to if you want to sign up for it, we do have a very small amount of places left on our Eventbrite page. The link for that will be in the description on our YouTube channel as soon as the show finishes.
Okay, but if you want to go looking, it's eventbrite.com and
just
search for RedShark.
Yeah, search for RedShark. Cool.
Okay.
All right, Dave.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Simon, are you still there?
I am, yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, look, we've got some interesting questions here. So do butt in. In fact, start talking immediately, because the first one is about the Black Magic.
Okay.
It's did you use a Metabones adapter when using the Black Magic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K? I'm worried about the sensor being so cropped. I mean, don't forget that this sensor isn't cropped. It is the sensor. It's only cropped relative to bigger sensors. So every sensor is cropped relative to a bigger sensor. Is that right?
Yeah, it actually is one of my pet hates, is talk of a cropped sensor. Like you say, it's not a cropped sensor in any more than 16mm is cropped 35mm film. You know, it's just the sensor size. So when they had a number of these cameras with different setups, different lenses on them. One of them had a cinema style lens on them with the matte box and everything. And so some of them had Micro Four Thirds, and some of them had the Metabones speed boosters on them. Now, what they told me was that the existing Metabones speed boosters should work with this camera. What I didn't actually get confirmed was the original speed booster for the for the Pocket Cinema camera. I don't think that one will work really, because it's designed for a different size sensor. I might be wrong, but but they did tell me that the two existing Micro Four Thirds speed boosters will work with this camera. And there's actually, I noticed that Metabones have one specifically for this camera as well. So I'm not sure what the differences are between these in actual use. This was an overview of the camera. It wasn't an in-depth test, so I wasn't able to take it apart and compare different models of speed booster on it and such like. That will come when we take a look at the camera much more closely.
Okay, just not dealing with these in the order they came in, but I'll stick with the Blackmagic camera. What was the feature that most surprised you while you were doing the test shots?
The noise and just the flexibility.
The low noise.
So,
the lack of the noise, yeah.
Yeah, the lack of the noise and the flexibility of the ISO settings. Previous Blackmagic cameras were exceptionally good cameras for the price, but they did always have that to use ISO rate, and in low light they weren't they weren't low light monsters. So this one changes all that. This one is truly flexible and is really, really good in the vast majority of scenarios that I can see.
Okay. I'm
also the lightness as well. Sorry, just to butt in there, actually. Just going back to that whole idea of it being video focused. The polycarbonate body with I think it's carbon fiber reinforced. I think, but it's very light. The final weight will depend on the lens you use on it, but it's very light and stiff. So compared to a big DSLR camera, this will be a lot less fatiguing to carry around, especially.
Yeah, so don't be misled by the appearance or the size.
Yeah, don't be.
Yeah. Okay, so someone else was asking about skin tones. We've already covered that, but just in summary, very good.
Yeah. From what I can tell, without being able to sort of scientifically measure it,
No, I mean, you had how long with it? Just a couple of hours, really?
Yeah, we had it's pretty much an afternoon with these things and in different scenarios, and yeah, from what I can tell, it's very, very good. I mean, one of the features that I did like about it, and I can see getting a lot of use, is the extended video mode. This gives an absolutely fantastic look straight out of the camera, and you can kind of think of it as a halfway point between using the log film mode and using Rec 709. But it isn't what you would call, when I say that, I'm not talking in terms of half-assed color. I'm not saying you use this mode and then you go into your grading software and then you have to boost all the saturation and it gives a really, really pleasing look straight out of the camera with the dynamic range that's kind of halfway between the two. Yep. So you don't really lose all that much with it. It's a very nice highlight roll-off. You can see deep into the shadows with it. It looks really, really nice, and I can see it getting a lot of use.
Which is actually what most people want, isn't it?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's going to save people a lot of time. You can load your own LUTs onto the camera. If you want, you can record in the log film mode, and Resolve now has, if you've downloaded the latest update of Resolve 15.01, it has the extended video LUT built in, so you could film in RAW or use the film mode, and you can put that same extended video mode onto your footage in Resolve if that's what you want to do. But if you want to bake in the look, you will get a very pleasing look straight out of the camera if you use it. If you're working fast and just want it there.
Yeah, you're right. I saw that look when I was at NAB, when I was interviewing Grant Petty, and just behind us was a Blackmagic camera with a huge Arri lens on it, shooting a model in a set, and it looked absolutely stunning. And I couldn't believe it was just coming straight out of the camera. I've never seen video like that come out of any camera at any price.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that they did focus on was when we were presented, they did the initial presentation was the fashion world and how critical the fashion world is over
Yeah.
textures and color. And actually, it was one of the considerations when they designed this camera and gave it all its
Right.
capabilities.
Right, because it's going to get used more, isn't it? If you don't have to wait for a week for it to go through post-production, it's going to get used more.
Yeah, yeah. If you have fast turnarounds, it's easy to think that everyone's got the time to do grading, or people just don't have that sort of time, and a lot of video production that's around. The most of the video production that goes on around the world is not Hollywood. It's it's bread and butter day to day things.
Absolutely. All right. So, well, thanks ever so much for that, Simon. You and I know we've got more interesting stuff coming up tomorrow in RedShark, and this is going to keep coming. And then it's Photokina, isn't it? So we have no information on this, so we can say without risk of being caught under non-disclosure agreements. But I mean, there's all kinds of rumours about a new Panasonic full frame mirrorless, and a new Sony A7S Mark 27, is it now? I've lost count, but these are rumours. It may not happen. I don't know. I'm just rumour mongering, which I'm happier to do on television than in print.
And we've got the new iPhone. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, yeah, which will make all of those cameras completely obsolete instantly. So, okay. Well, these are amazing times to be alive. What a time to be alive. All right, Simon, thanks so much. Thanks to everyone for watching. You'll be able to see this again within the space of an hour, or tell your friends if they've missed it. Meanwhile, do go to Eventbrite, search for RedShark if you're in Northwest Europe, and you can get to Amsterdam next Monday night. And just keep an eye on RedShark, because there's a lot of stuff happening at the moment. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.